I think we're going down 50 to 70% before this recent sell-off is over, which obviously started in January. I don't know how long it'll take to get down there, but I think we're in a pretty dramatic bear market. We've got so many issues in this country, from a food shortage to the crisis of what we're paying for food and for gas, for now a diesel fuel shortage, which is it's a great time for diesel fuel shortage that does deliveries using trains and trucks when it's coming right into Christmas. So this is going to be, I think, a real nightmare fourth quarter, and I think we could see a real ugly finish. There's no clarity of policy. There's no clarity in energy. There's no clarity anywhere, and inflation is going to the roof. Tomorrow we've got CPI, and all I can tell you is whatever the number is, multiply it by 3, because that's the real inflation. If you really calculated inflation under the right way, which is food and energy, which is only 4% of the number they report, because Americans spend most of their money on food and energy other than an emergency or a crisis. Credit card is at record debt, record highs. The Fed is trying to raise rates into a recession. How can we possibly look forward to Santa Claus showing up unless he's bringing coal along with him? I would suspect that, as usual, especially if control remains in 2 of the 3 houses, in 2 of the 3 branches, and control the Democrats, they'll raise the debt ceiling without a thought. What do they care? They don't care about the massive debt. They don't care that we have our debt service, the United States debt service has gone up so far by $1.4 trillion a year based on the increase in rates that we've seen. I'm always long. I'm hedged against the market. I use derivatives to hedge my portfolio. I'm accumulating. I'm buying more, believe it or not, as we go down. Again, I'm a believer in America, and I know that this market will recover at some point, okay? And at least in my opinion, if it doesn't, we got much bigger problems. But I'm a buyer of equities. I don't believe in the risk-on, risk-off type of trade looking for cyclicals. I trade what I want. I can protect them using derivatives and be perfectly hedged and actually being a bigger buyer as markets go down, which of course I am. And that's exactly how I will trade them. But from a trading position, I will be short, and I will continue to look for opportunities to get shorter, because I do believe that we're going to see that massive sell-off. So I do look for this selling to continue, and I look for it to get heavier and hotter because I think liquidity is going to come back to the markets now as well. We've been dealing coming into this election with no liquidity in any market, and I think now that's starting to come back as well. Everybody's laying off. Unfortunately, in this country, we don't report the jobs number properly. And of course, you saw a jobs number last week that beat expectations. But what they didn't tell you is that those are part-time jobs. Okay, you've got most people that are working have to have more than one job if they want to make a living. The full-time environment has seen nothing but layoffs and nothing but closures. And this is going to continue. You cannot keep stripping down the American population out of their capital and out of their money if you want business to survive. And we've now destroyed almost every small business in every major state. Again, when you're looking at big states and big cities, there is no small business. Some of the smaller cities, yes, because the big guys won't go there. But we're basically down to Walmart and Amazon in the retail business. And again, this is a problem. There is a destroying competition with the way that this administration wants to run the country. And that is not the way that America was built, and that is not capitalism. We need to have capitalism come back in and play here, not socialism. I say there's going to be a shortage. I do agree, and I think that it's going to create. You're already seeing many of the small truckers. We only remember the yellow freights or the big guys that you see the trucks on the road all the time. But there's a big percentage of small-time truckers that have to make some of the short-term deliveries. They're already shutting down. They've already parked their trucks and have turned them off and said, we can't make a living. There's not enough fuel for us to do things, and we can't make enough money to make the deliveries anyways. So I think that's a major problem, and I think it is real. And I think that what we're going to see here is you're going to start to see a food shortage. And the minute that it really comes out and people really start to believe it, then you're going to have the people that are starting to hoard things, that you're going to see empty shelves. You already see empty shelves in any store you go into, whether it be Walmart or your local grocery store. They already have empty shelves. They don't have enough supplies. You don't have enough goods. And if you can't deliver goods, they're going to be stuck in the harbor if they are there anyways, because they can't get them delivered. I think it's probably a buying opportunity. If you look at Bitcoin itself, it's really stuck in that 15,000 to 25,000. And certainly as an investor, I think that you like to see these carnage events come up because it really forces the price down lower. As a trader, I would call this like a blow-off pattern to the downside, which is where I'd like, when I can see where a short term it starts to bounce a little bit, I'd like to be a buyer. Bitcoin may fail, and I think that everybody has to be aware of if you're going to play in the crypto space, which I am a big believer, and I think it is the currency of the libertarian. I do believe that, listen, you have to be prepared that it could go to zero. There is no hard asset. It's not like gold. I can't hold it in my hands. I can't look at it. I can't touch it. So it's a little tricky, but I do think that crypto is real, and I do think that crypto is going to be the wave of the future as you watch the central banking system trying to convince everybody to go to a digital currency, which is not a cryptocurrency. And I think they want to make a worldwide digital, which they can have total control of it. And I think that's what you're seeing some of the problems here. And I do believe that the cryptos are real. But again, always in that kind of market, it's very speculative still. But Russia's using a lot of crypto right now because of some of their restrictions, so they can get around it through crypto, as are others. And the blockchain technology is phenomenal and been around for years. So I think they're real. I'd be looking to be a buyer at some point here, knowing though that I have to take risk. Now, the flush down to almost 1,600 last week, I think might have been the bottom, and that would be very similar to the bottom that you've just seen in the cryptos that you just asked me about. That kind of bottom is usually a potential sign of a reversal. I think first we got a big short covering rally that brought gold up near the 1680s, and now we're well over 1,700. And I think this is a very key area. And I am, not only do I own physical gold, but I am long gold futures now as well, because I do think that we have now reached that point where we can start to go higher. And I think the trigger point on that was silver. Yeah, actually, I think platinum, believe it or not, was the first trigger point because platinum looked the best, even though it's low price. Then silver held nicely when it could have gone lower while gold was still going down. And now they're all going up. And I think that we might see a pretty solid run here in the precious metals going into the end. We have a major problem, and we have obviously a spending problem. And unfortunately, in this country, the taxpayers, the middle class especially, get to pay all these bills that are being created, which is going to take away from their actual net income and their excess spending. As far as investing, look, I think that you should always stay invested in markets to some point. And I think you should look for opportunities if you have new money that you are not going to need to pay your mortgage tomorrow. You should be investing that money in one of these asset classes that we talk about. But if it's money that you're going to need to live on, you cannot invest that money. You cannot get over leveraged to these markets because it could get ugly and you could suffer some great pain. But I think you're going to start to see some terrific opportunities going forward that will allow you to make a heck of a return in the future. But you must only invest money that you don't need tomorrow to pay the car payment, the mortgage, or feed your family.